Welcome back to A Bite from the Money Sandwich, where we provide practical and easy to understand tips and ideas on how to manage your money better, so as to let you retire with comfort and on your own terms. Let's face it, money plays a big role in our lives, but to be good with money, it doesn't mean you have to be good with numbers, even though it helps. It's all about how we perceive money and how our core values shape the choices we make. Today, I am pleased to be able to speak to Amie Baker, who is an award-winning financial advisor, a money mindset coach, podcaster, founder of Centsability, and if that wasn't enough, she's also the New South Wales State Chair of Inspire for the Financial Advice Association of Australia. Amie talks about the value of advice as well as how understanding your money mindset is crucial, as for example, how we were raised to view money as children. Amie also shares her best pieces of money advice, which we can all live by. Well, welcome, Amie, to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, we've known each other for a fair while, but you've been in this industry or profession, I should say, a fair while. It always fascinates me on how people get into this profession, or what actually first interested you about money, to say.
Funnily enough, I wouldn't have thought that I would end up in this profession when I was a child. I wanted to be an actor and a singer, and the reality was, being a performing artist, I was working in hospitality and got a permanent gig as a singer, and I was like, I need a day job.
I did not know you were a singer, Amie. Now I know. Okay.
Jazz singer, yeah. And there was like, oh wow, I need a day job. Found myself working in businesses and then ended up almost basically running the financial side of the business. Like, started bookkeeping and then went into banking. It was, I thought I need a career path. I can't be a bookkeeper, and I wasn't really interested in being an accountant. So I got a job at St. George Bank, and they put me, first of all, you sort of kind of start at the grassroots call center, and it was collections. Now, at this point, I was already looking to study university, and I wasn't sure where I was heading. I just had a newborn baby also. So the reality kicked in when he was born. I needed to, not just to rely on the creative side, but I needed to actually be an adult. And I look back and go, I was 26, like I was young, but I was freaking out. So in the first few weeks of being in collections, I discovered very quickly how I wanted to help people. Money's always fascinated me. When I was working in businesses, it became, apparent that money literally does make the world go round in a way, not in an evil way, not in a positive way, and actually it's everywhere. It is required, and it's the mechanics of how the world works, and we need to understand how that works. So understanding economics was something that I was fascinated by. But in St. George Bank, the one thing that got me down to, okay, I want to be a financial planner, was that I was dealing with the arrears team. I was dealing with people who were actually going through financial hardship. And most cases, it was avoidable due to needing insurance, income protection, or actually an understanding financial literacy on how money worked. Like, there was people in arrears because they didn't understand that they had a line of credit. Now, they don't do this anymore, but back then you could get a line of credit against your mortgage to sort of do a renovation. It was like an interest-only loan, but there was not a set regular payment. So it was very confusing to those who were pulling money in and out, and they didn't know what was going on. Next thing, the bank's calling and asking for a big chunk of money. So there was a lot of information to me that needed to be out there to people. And that's when I discovered financial planning, and St. George Bank then sort of put me on a program and wanted to fast track my career. So I deferred RMIT uni and then ended up doing the Tribeca, and then, which now is Kaplan. So, it wasn't very long after that. I was terrible at collections, because all I wanted to do was, help people and talk to them instead of just get a promise to pay next call. So I was moved very quickly into the insurance and the wealth team. Not long after that. So that was, that was nearly 20 years ago.
Well, that's actually that's a great grounding. There's so many people fall into this profession, and I know, with it now being a degree qualified profession, we are needing to, as a profession, to get better at helping people understand from school that this is a career choice for them, rather than, I accidentally fell into this profession, as a lot of people in the old days used to do that way. But from your grounding with collections and actually understanding we as a profession could do far more, couldn't we? Just to help
Absolutely.
educate the banks, really. I know that if you go to a bank website, there is so much information, but actual practical hands-on, we will actually run a course for you. We will help educate you on Money 101. We could be doing so much better because, most people unfortunately can't afford advice or don't know quite what to do or how to get or what it's all about, but they really could do better for people, exactly as you said, in collections who just don't understand the basics.
Absolutely. The other part of this is that people don't understand, in my opinion, and I think you'll agree, the value of advice. They don't actually
Mm.
understand what we do. Some people, I meet and they think, oh, I better not tell you about my lifestyle. You might tell me not to spend money. And it's like, well, that's not actually how we work. I'm a believer with the right plan. It's having your cake and eat it too. You want to be able to retire comfortably. You want to be able to maybe create a legacy for your kids, but you also want to live in life, have a lifestyle. And it really comes down to your values. And a lot of people don't realize that we're looking at putting those pieces of the puzzle together for them versus, just saying it's superannuation or insurance or it's telling you how to manage your cash. It's so
Or
much
sell a
more than that.
product. Mm.
Exactly. It's rarely about the product, you
Absolutely.
know?
Yeah. And yet that perception's there. And if I had to bring it between two, it was always, well, I obviously see you when I've got $1 million, whereas it should be, we'll help you make $1 million. And the other side is, oh, well, you're going to make me miss out on all the good stuff. And, like budgeting will stop you save, because you just got to save all the time. And it's just not that case. As you said, it's about what your values are, I like to say, BHAG, got your big, hairy, audacious goals, and we will help you get there. We will keep you accountable, all those sort of stuff. Actually, and that's also part of what's interested me about your career is you've been very successful as a financial advisor, but you've never just stayed at that. It's as if that's okay. What's the next step? What's the next stage? And money mindset, which is something I've only in probably the last 2 or 3 years has been researching a lot more about. But that's something you specialize in, but also do as part of your value offer. Do you want to actually tell me a bit about how you got into that, or why you feel that's so important?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm one of those people that once something fascinates me, I kind of fall down the rabbit hole and want to know more.
Yes.
Initially, I found myself loving the concept of behavioral economics because I was questioning the decisions around, questioning why people make the decisions they make. How did they get there? There's always this backstory. I'm a bit of a nerd. I love Star Wars. So I love the backstories. I love to know, how did this actually come about? What happened to get you here? And so when I started to dig deeper, it wasn't just about the sort of bigger view that we look at from behavioral economics, but it was actually more around our own stories and our own behaviors and actually understanding the mind and how our brains work. And that we've got our programming really starts very early in our childhood. And that got me into understanding neuroscience and going, wow, this is fascinating. I did a few different courses. Some were focused on archetypes and behaviors, and others were focusing on actually what was our childhood story and how do we now move ourselves forward, because this keeps coming up as patterns. And that's sort of where I started to focus in on. And I started to see this with clients. You come with a excitement once we get the plan in order and they think, okay, this is going to be life changing, but they've got to do the change themselves. I can go and give the plan, but they're not, unless they're going to start reprogramming, in some, for lack of better wording, their thoughts and behaviors and attitudes to money, they're not going to actually make any massive change. They can stick to something if they are disciplined, but they've got to be fully engaged and buy in. And that's really from a mindset, but also emotional, and understanding that there is that connection. Our brains do, create chemicals like dopamine and serotonin, and it's actually working away a process that gets them engaged and excited continuously along the way. And mindset is something, wealth creation, in my view, is a mindset. Just like being an athlete, you've got the goal to be on that podium. That's the same thing when it comes to any part of our life. So it's about integrating those concepts into the strategy and the plan and the ongoing service that we offer.
One of those big sort of light bulb moments when, sitting with clients or or people I'm coaching, and I sort of say, money isn't mathematics. You may think that from school, but money is emotional. How
Absolutely.
to explain greed, poverty, the feelings that bring about. And yeah, we've all had retail therapy for that dopamine release that it makes us feel better. Or, if we're sad, we want to go spend some money. So people need to understand. And once they actually understand money is emotional, or gets these emotional feelings that control our spending, or actually we're not in control of our spending. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And you can see people say, I get it now. Absolutely. Money isn't just a strict budget, ones and zeros. It's all about, how does it make me feel?
Hmm. And a lot of people have a lot of fear and anxiety over money
Mm,
because they've inherited that from their parents. And, we're looking, the baby boomers have, they've done very well in terms of wealth creation, but they also came from a scarcity mindset and the concept that you needed to really save and you needed to, scrimp and save along the way because they came from parents that came from war. So when you consider how these sort of beliefs are
mm,
inherited as well, and why you've got now generations from, my generation, and I look down at my stepdaughter who's more Gen Z, but then there's the millennials. You can see there's such a disparity to their behaviors and attitudes because they've never experienced any hardship. They've actually come through very bullish markets. They've actually been in this incredible time in history where things have actually been smooth sailing. Yes, we've had a few hiccups, like we've had a GFC, we've had the pandemic, but it's not been such a catastrophic period of time where it's actually shaped the way you believe. But people inherit that. People still inherit the fear. The one thing I hear all the time, especially from my female clients, is they feel they're falling behind and they're worried they'll have nothing.
mm,
And I'm always saying, where's the evidence? Who are you matching that up to? Because
yeah.
usually they're looking at society, and I go, half of society are in absolute debt to the eyeballs. So, yeah, and I will say, I can measure this because I see the numbers with everybody all the time. You're doing well.
Mm.
And I'll show you the evidence. And you're not going to fall behind because we're going to do this, this, and this to keep you going. But it's always like, when was the time that you actually had income to stop? And usually people go, oh, it hasn't. Right. So why are you so freaked out that money's going to stop coming through?
Mm. And it's even nearly an oxymoron that they have got the lifestyle for a lot of these, but yet on the flip side, home prices are nothing like what their parents were. Their home, they could buy a home at 2 or 3 times salary nearly, whereas now it's 10 or 12 times. So they've got the lifestyle, they've got more money than they ever had, but they're still saying, well, but how do I ever get into my own first home? So they do need to think differently, and so many things there. But I think exactly what you were just saying, that you're talking to these clients, and sometimes they just need that reassurance to say, it's all okay, you can breathe and all that. And for them to actually take that first step to see you, well, they're already ahead of 80% of the people out there in society. And you wish more people would take that first step, but it is, isn't it? You can just see it in their faces. They can just breathe out the feel. You're giving them that reassurance, and it's so important.
Yeah. And one of the key questions, and I'm sure you asked this as well, is what was the motivation for you to come and see me? And often they try and give you the right answer first.
Yes.
And it's about, oh, I want to make sure that I'm okay with superannuation and everything. But when you dig a bit deeper, it's usually an emotional
Mm.
motivation. It's usually fear or anxiety, stress, and they don't want to feel that anymore. They want to actually take away us as advisors, to take away those pain points. And we all work so hard, it's like, I get that one. I'm sure you hear it as well in your career, is that I feel like I'm working so hard, but I've got nothing to show for it.
Yeah. And, it's one of those, a mentor told me very, very early on, ask the what keeps you up at night question. And
Yes,
that'll be
exactly.
the real reason they're there, exactly what you were just saying. So it's really important. And it really is, when we're talking also about the money mindset, they just don't feel in control. You're sort of saying, we're earning good money. but we just don't know where it all goes. And so,
Mhm.
and we're not trying to tell people to be on a strict budget, but you do need to know where your money's going. And this is
Absolutely.
also a 21st century problem, is that we've got all these incremental expenditures. We've got all these Ubers, the streaming services, and they're just these little incremental expenses that come out. Even, if we've got Microsoft, it's a monthly expense that we just, it's only $10. It's nothing. We won't miss it. Whereas that was never a 20th century problem, was it?
Not at all. I mean, we had Foxtel for such a long time,
Yeah.
and then all of these apps came up, and I turned to Brett one day and I said, "We don't even use Foxtel.
Yeah.
But look at what we're actually spending." And I say, "I've got to constantly be on top of this because this is what I teach my clients and my students, right?" So I did the math and I went, getting rid of Foxtel. And because what we were spending on all the apps actually stacked up to almost a Foxtel monthly subscription. So we're almost paying double.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's those little things that,
We actually had that.
I know that's a bit
That was our
sideline.
Christmas one too. Last
It's a
Christmas.
sideline thing, but you got to just
It
go.
is. You've just got to check. And it's not saying you've got to do this weekly or daily, but you do need to, if you're going to be in control of your money, you do need to know where it's going. Because most people do say, I just live paycheck to paycheck and I don't know where my money's going. And well, you've got to look. And there's so many good apps out there that will actually nearly automate all this for you too.
Absolutely. And if you're in multiple banks, there's open bank apps now like Frollo that can capture everything in one place.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I always say, and it's my favorite quote. You've got to tell your money where to go or it will leave.
Okay.
So
Say that again. That's really like that.
Tell your money where to go or it will leave. And the point being that you've got to direct it. You've got, your fixed expenses have got to go out usually in your pay cycle. Then you've got your variable fund expenses that go onto the card that you tap, things like that, or your goals, directing those goals and moving them to where they need to be, whether that be, I'm going to make more contributions to super each month, or I'm going to put towards my, save to invest or in my investment fund now. And I'm just doing that dollar cost averaging to get to the fact that I don't want to ever be worried about money again. As opposed, and so it's know your numbers, and it's the strategy part, the product part we're talking about. That's just the mechanics of the advice. The strategy is, we look at how we can minimize tax, how we can make the most of your money, and we'll help you direct it and tell it where to go so that you don't have to wake up at night sweating about, the fact that you might be running out of money or you won't have enough at retirement.
And that also goes to, I was saying, a lot of people who have come to see you and they're just not sure what's going on, and even what you do as an advisor. I often get the left-sided, oh, well, I'm not a left-sided, I'm a creative person, I'm a right-sided brain. But some of my best clients actually are right-sided, but there's a fear because we're right-sided or creative, we're never going to be good at maths. Well, that's totally irrelevant when it comes to money. You just need to know the rules. And if you don't know the rules in anything, it's going to be a problem.
Absolutely. And yeah, I don't buy into that creative side because I'm also a creative, and I go, and one of my good friends who's also a referral partner who's an accountant.
Right.
He's also an incredible singer and guitar player and very creative as well. And so you go, yeah, no, that's an excuse.
It is an excuse, yeah.
It's why I've moved away from using archetypes, because as soon as you say you put a label to somebody, they'll stick to that, and that's then the excuse. So it's like, no, you're a money warrior, actually. That's what you are. You're great at this. You just don't believe it yet.
No, very good advice. Okay, now you've got quite a diverse range of clients and that, but there is a focus on helping women.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And there is a lot of very unfortunate research around, the second fastest growing area of homelessness is women over 50, single women over 50. So there's a lot of reasons, but why for you, and how do you help women in this particular way in financial planning?
Well, first of all, I guess out of my own life experience, I was a single mum and a divorcee when I started my business. So I think that naturally attracted women who are going through divorce or experiencing just being a single parent initially. And that sort of was probably the grassroots of bringing, like, my book of businesses. Obviously for single women, I've got a higher number than, I've only got like 2 single males in my, and the rest are couples. Yep. But what also has occurred was that I'm very passionate about wanting to help in community. As you know, I'm New South Wales Chair for Inspire, and I could see there was a disparity there with our gender wealth gap, and there is also a growing number of domestic violence. So a few years ago, I wanted to build a financial literacy course, and I started the process, but I wanted to also be able to pay it forward, to work with a charity so I could actually go, I know that it's actually making a difference. I can't just trust that I'm going to market that and it's just going to be amazing. And literally, I think a few days after I sort of went, I'm looking for some kind of organization that I can work with to really make a difference. And lo and behold, I came across the Equanimity Project, which is all about, one, it's preventing homelessness for women. Two, it's also support for female women coming out of domestic violence. And then there's also financial literacy, which I'm now helping build and work with. So I became a director of that charity. But I think, out of my experience working with them, I've become even more passionate to wanting to help. Now, in my business, I do some pro bono work, but I've just found more women being attracted to, I guess, what I'm doing and how I'm providing advice, because I guess I'm coming from an understanding that I know what it's like to be a single parent. I know what it's like to be self-employed, and I know what it's like to not think, oh my God, how am I going to keep this roof over my head? So I've had that life experience come through that, and now it's sort of like that time that I can, pay it forward, I guess. So that's the biggest part of what I do now is outside of financial planning, which I love to do, and it's still a core business. Is really building a financial literacy arm through, my platform Centsability, and working with the Equanimity Group. And then also there's the stuff that I do with the FAAA and Inspire, which I think is nurturing more women into the profession.
Yeah, and both those, whether it's helping women financially or mentoring them coming into this profession, it's really, it's wonderful work you're doing, and it really is needed. We do know about gender pay gaps. We do know about single women coming out, or women coming out of divorce are usually in a worse situation. And usually, if it's traditional role models, they raised the children, so they didn't, and so they're always just behind the 8 ball. And so it's just really, it's great work what you're doing, Amie. And I really, we just need more people out there who just realizes, because there are a lot of advisors, and some of our profession is in a bit of a bubble sometimes. And just what you're doing with Centsability, your own podcast, the work. Just keep it up.
Thank you.
You've actually given us one really good tip about but if you don't look after your money, it will leave you, type thing. Even though I've stuffed that up. Any other favorite money tips you like?
Yeah, I wrote a few down because I was like, I knew that you were gonna, you might in the email. I thought, oh, just prepare just in case I forget what I was like. But know your numbers was the first part of that. Tell your money where to go or will leave. The other one is celebrate your small wins. So you've got to break down your goals into really small goals. Small goals are like the stepping stones to the big goal, to the yellow brick road. So, and we've got to understand our brains are designed to either keep you safe or keep you happy. So if we understand that fear is just actually telling you that there's a potential threat, and you look at it and be logical about that and go, well, no, that's just a story my brain's telling me, and it doesn't exist. The bear isn't going to come and attack me. But it's actually, when you're looking at your finances, look at them like they are creating the lifestyle that you have. So it's always that glass is actually half full. Always look at it with gratitude. If you are looking at your expenses and you're having a moment of, oh my God, I have overspent, look at it like a photo album. Look at those experiences. Okay, yep, we went out for dinner and I splurged way more than I was supposed to, but I enjoyed that moment. And then look at where you are moving your money to, if it's a savings goal or if it's your investment. And no, it doesn't have to be how the performance is going, but look at the fact that you're doing it consistently, and celebrate that, and celebrate yourself that you are sticking to it. Remember that it's a marathon, that whole, and wealth creation is the mindset. So that would be my third tip, is that you've got to maintain that mindset. Always imagine yourself already there. Step into that future self and know that if I keep going with these small little things every week, every month, every year, every few years, then I will get there eventually.
Love them. Love them. We actually usually finish off with, best piece of advice you've actually heard, but is one of those that you've just given us 3 really wonderful tips. I think that's unless you've got something else, another tip, which I'm happy to hear.
Yeah, I think my best advice is life is not a dress rehearsal. And
Oh,
we've got to really enjoy every moment. And that's another trick with the mindset is it's really easy to fall into, the stress of the world. And, every day it's the grind of getting up and working and, and worrying about whether you're going to have enough for retirement, or worrying about the kids' education, or whatever it is where you are in your timeline. But remember that you've got to enjoy it and make your memories.
love it. Okay, Amie, that nearly half an hour, that went so fast. It's very easy just to chat and talk about money and talk about, especially the great work you're doing. Just really appreciate you being on the show, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Absolutely. That's great. Thank you so much for having me. I
Pleasure.
really enjoyed it.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to know more about Amie and the work she does, visit centsability.net.au. That's centsability.net.au. Or feel free to email me on admin@themoneysandwich.com, or visit our website, themoneysandwich.com, if you have any questions or would like to learn more. Want more practical, easy to understand tips and action lists to help with your money stuff? The latest version of my book, The Money Sandwich, is now available to order on Booktopia and Amazon, as well as available at all popular bookstores. Everyone deserves to retire comfortably and on their own terms. Make this the year you take action. As with every podcast, this information is not advice, as not personalised to your own situation. And past performance is never guaranteed for the future. What we are trying to do here is to provide tips, coaching and education to help improve your money knowledge, which we believe can only be a good thing. See you next time when we take another bite from the Money Sandwich.